Hi everyone! So if you've been here before and also watched other art YouTubers, then you probably know about the OHUHU markers. What we know about them is that they are both cheap and good, which isn't always a combination. You get a good marker to a good price. And no, I'm not sponsored, even if it may sound like it. I do actually really like the OHUHU markers, so it is my true and honest opinion. As usual, I actually really wish that the OHUHU markers would have been available years ago when I started using markers. Would have turned out a lot cheaper for me. Also, these specific OHUHU markers, they are brush markers, which makes them even better in my opinion. I love brush markers, but it isn't really the markers that I wanted to talk about today, even if they are delicious. I mean, just look at this big bag of markers. It actually happens to be that OHUHU just released their very own fine liner pens. I think they've had colored fine liners for a while now, but this is more for I can't even say it now. These are for line work and outlining, and they are apparently smooth, waterproof, fade resistant, quick drying, and no smearing. I would like to see if these are just as affordable as the OHUHU markers. So we have them all from 0.05, which is super thin, to 1.0, which is very thick for being a fine liner. And what makes me very excited, a brush pen. So we have a very light text printed on these fine liner pens. I think it is silver, so it is a little hard to read in certain angles, but we have the size written on the pen, which is good. So this is the brush pen. Oh, that looks nice. A very fine and pointy brush tip. Here we have the finest one, 0.05. It is so thin. And then we have the thickest one. Oh my, this is a thick boy. I wouldn't really call this a fine liner, more like a bullet tip pen maybe, but it is great having some thicker pens for filling up larger areas maybe. So I actually really like having a thicker one. And then we have all of them in between. But yeah, I really like the variety in sizes. So I'm actually gonna try these on both smoother Bristol board and on more rougher watercolor paper. Then you will see how they look on smooth paper and on rougher paper, and I can try them out with the markers and with watercolors, because I think those are the most common art supplies that you use fine liners with, and you really want to know how they behave with these types of mediums. Color pencils are dry, so they shouldn't really affect the fine liners anyway. So we have the brush pen. Oh, that is nice. We can make thicker lines and thinner lines. And then we have the watercolor paper. Looks like it is spreading a little in the fibers. I don't know, maybe that is how it is for all brush pens, but I haven't really noticed it before. The thinnest one, 0.5. So you get this set of 8 different fine liner pens for about $10, $9.99 I think, which makes them about $1.25 per pen, I think, if I counted correctly. If you get a similar set of 8 Pigma micron pens, it is about $15, so already this set is a little cheaper. And you can actually get these even cheaper. If you use the code in the description box below, you will get a 20% discount. There will also be links to where you can find these. If I'm gonna be totally honest, I can't really see that much difference between the 0.1, 2 and 3. That is interesting. This one looks a little bolder. Last but definitely not smallest. Oh, that is a nice thick line. So yeah, here we have them. I can't really find anything to complain about. The only thing that I notice is that they look a little dry on the more textured watercolor paper, especially this thicker one, the 1mm one, because when you made quicker strokes, it looks a little more dry. So I can't really say that they are super pigmented, but I'm actually gonna compare them to some other fine liners too. So that is where you're gonna be now, huh? So yeah, I'm gonna try these with markers and with watercolors and we'll see what happens. And then I'm gonna try to draw something with the fine liners. Alright, so let's do a little test here. The brush pens are OHUHU, Kattvalk and Pigma Micron. Can't really see that much different between them. They all look just as pigmented. I don't think I could tell these apart, to be honest. We have the fine liners, which are OHUHU, Kattvalk, Pigma Micron and Unipin. So here we have the fine liners, and I can't really see that much different there either, besides the Kattvalk that is a little thinner, but I didn't have it in a bigger size. I think the Unipin is a little more pigmented, to be honest, but compared to the Micron and the Kattvalk, they kind of look the same. So now let's try the markers and watercolors. Let's start with a marker test. The ink has been sitting for half an hour or so, so I think it should be completely dry by now. Yeah, look at that. So yeah, I can't really see any smudging or smearing or anything. The marker look completely clear, so that is a good sign. I actually don't know if OHUHU makes watercolors, but in case they do, please let me know. I would love to try them. I don't know, the yellow actually looks a little muddy, to be honest, but let's just go straight down here. So here is when I'm really rubbing with a paintbrush over the lines, and you can see a little bit of bleeding. It looks a little muddy, but when just painting more quickly over the lines, nothing really happens. Here I also really rubbed on the lines and here as well, and here I just painted very quickly over it. So I would say that the OHUHU fineliners, they work with watercolors as well, as long as you're not too aggressive when adding the paint. Or maybe the line work needs to dry a little longer, I don't know, but they aren't bleeding like crazy or spreading in the paint, so I would say that they are watercolor approved. Yeah, there we have those. Now let's try to make some art using the fine liners. I think I'm gonna do one with markers and one with fine liners only. Yeah, let's do that. Alright, so let's start by using the fine liner pens by themselves and see what they look like in an illustration. And of course, I couldn't go with 3 videos in a row and have no cats, but this is an arts and cats channel, so that is what you get. And I'm so sorry if the paper moves around a lot. I usually try to tape down the paper, but when doing line art, I just need to move the paper around. And I wanted to draw something more psychedelic. I don't know if that is the right word or term. I just wanted a bunch of plants and mushrooms growing out from the cat that is cut in half, but it is still happy, so that is great. I just wanted to do something a little different. But let's talk about the fine liners. I started with the brush pen for the outer lines. I love using brush pens for fur. It is just perfect, or should I say perfect? No. Anyway, I love the brush pen. As we could see before, it looks just as good as the Kattvalk and the Pigma Micron brush pen. I really enjoyed working with it, and I tried to incorporate as many of the different pen nib sizes as possible. I didn't have any problem at all using these. They all worked perfectly, and I am quite heavy-handed when inking and doing line work, but all of these pens that I used, they kept their shape and didn't break or anything. To be honest, the only fine liner pen that I've ever managed to break are the Pigma Micron pens, the finer ones, but yeah, these OHUHU pens, they seem very durable. So the only thing that I would complain about is the pigmentation. Even if I did compare the different brands of fine liners and brush pens before and they all look the same, it feels like the OHUHU fineliner still looks a little faded. They are not what I would call super pigmented, but I am using a drawing paper with a little more texture to it, so maybe the paper is sucking up the ink and the pigments a little more, I don't know. But I did actually do a fine liner comparison test a few years ago, and the Unipin fine liner, the one that I used the most, turned out to be one of the most pigmented ones. But another thing that I also noticed, I could actually erase on top of the lines and they didn't fade that much, so that is great. But yeah, here is how this little piece turned out. I hope you like it. So for this next piece, I wanted to try the fine liners with markers. Fine liners and markers is a pretty popular and common combination, and it is nice to see how the OHUHU markers and how the OHUHU fine liners interact with each other. So the theme for this video is apparently cut open. I just wanted to see plants growing out of things, and here I'm using a smoother paper Bristol board, the same as I used for the test before, and it works great with markers. And I have to say, I actually think the fine liners looks a little more pigmented on this paper. I think the paper fibers are a little denser in Bristol board than in drawing paper, so the ink isn't absorbed as much into the paper, and maybe Bristol board has some sort of coating, I don't know. I am no paper expert, but that is a theory at least. So I like to go over the lines a few times with different nib sizes to give the line art a nice line weight. And line weight is when you have different sized lines, it makes the line work more organic and alive, I think. So I like to mix thinner and thicker lines. I especially like to go around the outer line, the silhouette line so to speak, and make it even thicker. And here I found the 1mm pen, the very thickest of the fine liners, to be very useful. I could just go over the lines once and it gave a nice and thick line immediately. If I'm using a 0.5 or 0.8 fine liner, I usually have to go over the lines 2 or 3 times to achieve the desired line thickness. Something that I also liked with these pens is that they are very smooth to draw with. So let's see how accurate the description on the fine liner package is. So we have smooth, check. Waterproof, well, kinda. It depends on how hard you rub the paintbrush, but I would say that they are approved. Fade resistant, I guess that means that they are light fast, maybe, that they won't fade with time. I just started to use them, so I can't really confirm that, unfortunately. Quick drying, yes, they didn't smear anything, and I know I dragged my hand over the lines a few times. And then lastly, no smears, also true. I let the line work rest for a bit before starting to coloring, but none of the lines or the line work, it didn't bleed or smear or smudge or anything, which made me very impressed, especially on this smoother paper. I have experienced fine liner smudging with markers, but these OHUHU fine liners didn't do that, so that is awesome. Also, even if this isn't a marker review, I can really recommend the OHUHU brush markers. As I said before, they are very affordable and nice markers. OHUHU are apparently coming out with a pastel color set very soon, so that is something that I look forward to try out too. But I had a lot of fun working on this piece. It turned out so colorful and crisp, I suppose. I don't know, it just feels clean routine. I rarely do line work traditionally anymore, to be honest. I find it very stressful because I am so afraid to mess it up and I have to redo it all. So I prefer doing the lines digitally, but I had so much fun with these fine liners. And to answer the question, are these OHUHU fine liners just as affordable as the markers? I would definitely say that these pens are affordable from what I can see after trying them today. They really impressed me when using them with the markers. Also, I am pretty sure that these fine liners works just as great with other alcohol-based markers too, not only the OHUHU markers. I just wanted to mention that. So yeah, I can really recommend them. For that price, I feel like they are very affordable and you get a good range of different nib sizes and a brush pen. So I hope you enjoyed this little review and the art. I really love trying out different art supplies and I'm always happy to be able to share it with you guys, especially if it is good art supplies. Let me know what you think and which of these drawings that you like the most. Thanks OHUHU for the fine liner pens and the markers, and thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I hope I will see you next time. Keep drawing my happy cats. Bye!